May the Spirit enter into this room. May your hearts be filled with delight. May she ever surround and protect us, and may always her beauty be by our side. Our love has grown into a home, and suddenly everything I've learned has a place it can start. 'Cause finally love has come and taken a place in our hearts. This is our welcoming. Open up and let it in. Feel it happening. Spirits beckoning. Welcome to our welcoming. May your eyes be filled with wonder and joy. May your arms be filled with delight. May your heart be as easily opened as the moment of grace at the birth of a child. Love's gentle touch shows me so much, and suddenly everything I've learned has a place it can start. Finally love has come and taken a place in our heart. This is our welcoming. Open up and let it in. Feel it happening. Spirits beckoning. Welcome to our welcoming. This is our welcoming. Open up and let it in. Feel it happening. Spirits beckoning. Welcome to our welcoming. Oh.
You can clap. Good morning, everyone. Well, as you probably know, most of our, well, not most, but a big chunk of our congregation is at the women's retreat, which is why we're so small today. But I'm so glad that all of you are here, and we are going to have a wonderful service. We are small but mighty. Yes. And it's kind of fun because we can be a little more informal today, which is what we're going to do. So that will be fun too. So we begin with our affirmation for peace in the Middle East that we say each week in solidarity with our Muslim and Jewish brothers and sisters, all of us people of the book. And so we greet one another. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Peace be upon you.
Peace.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Well, I think you all know that I'm Reverend Michelle Vargas, and it is my joy and honor to welcome you this morning to Unity of Monterey Bay on this final Sunday of Pride Month. And I'm kind of sad to see Pride Month end, but it's been a wonderful month, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about that later. UMB is a beloved community co-created with love and intention that welcomes all people, all races, nationalities, cultures, and religions, whatever your immigration status, sexual orientation, gender identity, family configuration, and or abilities. And whether you're here with us in person or you're joining us online or virtually, we know that love knows no boundaries and that we are one in spirit. As a purpose-driven church, Unity of Monterey Bay is an inclusive spiritual community, committed to co-creating an environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, socially just, and compassionate human presence on this planet. And I just wanted to mention that in the Pride March yesterday, they added, whereas each group started going down, actually as we crossed the rainbow crosswalk, they had an announcer, and they had asked us to provide a couple of sentences, and so that's what I had them say. So everyone who was there heard that statement about us being an inclusive spiritual community, etc. So I thought that was pretty awesome. We celebrate our oneness, and we honor the God of each of our understanding, affirming the innate good and divine essence within each and every individual. Will you please join me in our statement of faith? There is only one presence and one power in the universe, God the good, expressing as infinite God beyond us, intimate God beside us, inner God being us, divine love in action. And so it is. As we allow this knowing to deepen within our souls and serve to awaken us into enlightenment for the benefit of all beings, we join in this prayer for peace, holding our nation, our own nation, Ukraine and the Middle East and all other places around the world that are experiencing turmoil in our hearts and minds. And I like rather than repeating it to have us all say it together. But now I can't remember what the first gesture is. Oh, okay. I offer you peace. You guys can say it with me. I offer you love. I offer you friendship. I see your beauty. I feel your feelings. My wisdom flows from the one source, and I bow to that source in you. Let us work together in unity and love. So let us affirm now together, as we do each and every week. Thank you, God, for this most amazing day. Miracle follows miracle, and wonders never cease. And as we do each week, we celebrate and bless our children, those in our spiritual community, in our own families and neighborhoods, those in our larger community, all the children around the world, and of course our own inner children. Opening our hearts wide and seeing them protected and resilient, creative and evolving, joyous and loved, as we join in our heartfelt blessing. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you just the way you are.
This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
So, as you can tell, we have Devin today. Our music director, Denise Headland, is up today in San Francisco giving out free mom hugs at the San Francisco Pride March. So she was really excited about doing that, and so Devin is filling in for her today, and we are so grateful to have him with us, and John over there on drums. All right, so let's all take a deep breath in now and let it out with an audible sigh. Let's do that together. So breathing in and sigh it out. Should we do another one? Let's do another one. It feels so good. Deep breath in and sigh it out. Oh, and just feel yourself drop into this now moment and this presence as we center ourselves to embrace this blissful interconnection with Spirit, and we invite the chime to call us into the sacred space within. We ring the chime 4 times to call in the 4 directions and to remind us of our interconnection with all of creation and with the sacred circle of life. As we feel it resonate through our very beings, we follow its call into this now present moment within. Focusing on our breath, with each inhale, we open our hearts and minds. we envision our breath reaching every cell of our being. And with each exhale, we see all barriers and obstacles dissolving into the divine flow. And again, as we inhale, we expand the spaciousness within us. We move beyond the limitations and boundaries of our bodies, and as we exhale, we ground ourselves deep within Mother Earth and into our oneness with the universe. Finally, we breathe our awareness into the highest expression of love, light, joy, and peace we can imagine, as we experience a transforming wave of gratitude. And with a fullness of heart, we say yes to it all, embracing, claiming, and knowing the divine Christ Spirit expressing in, through, and as us. And with a final exhale, we say, thank you, God. So now, fully centered and transformed by the power of Spirit, we enter into our lesson and meditation time with today's daily word.
We read from June 30th Daily Word, shared with permission of Unity, publisher of Daily Word, that can also be found at dailyword.com. And the word is world peace. I envision peace and harmony as a living reality throughout the world. If I am feeling discouraged about the state of the world and wondering why peace remains elusive, I remind myself that with God, all things are possible. So much more than mere wishful thinking, this awareness is a potent declaration of faith. It's a belief I share with others throughout the world who are working toward the realization of the peace we know is possible. The desire for peace transcends nations, creeds, and cultures, just as faith in the presence and power of God transcends religion. As members of the human community, all people are divine beings with spiritual gifts we can use to bring peace to every corner of the world. Through the power of God within us, we are creating the peace we wish to see. And from scriptures, so he came and proclaimed peace to you who were far off and peace to those who were near.
Who cares who you love, as long as you love, as long as you love. Who cares who you love, as long as you love, as long as you love. Who cares who you love, as long as you love, as long as you love. Who cares who you love, as long as you love, as long as you love.
In witness to the wisdom of the many paths to the sacred, we read from 3 sacred traditions on this morning's topic. Spiritual inquiry. From Sikhism, realization of truth is higher than all else. Higher still is truthful living. From Judaism, much Torah have I learned from my teachers, more from my colleagues, but from my students most of all. And from Unity New Thought Christianity, truth abides in fullness at the very core of man's being. As his conscious awareness expands, he touches the everlasting truth that seems new is but the unveiling of that which has always been. That's from Charles Fillmore, The Revealing Word.
So I wanted to sing this song in my Kermit the Frog voice, but Denise said I couldn't do that, so. Why are there so many songs about rainbows, and what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, they're only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it, but I know they're wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on the morning star? Somebody thought of it, and someone believed it, and look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing, and what do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. All of us under its spell, we know that it's probably magic. Have you been fast asleep, and have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Is this the sweet sound that calls the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. La da da dee da da dum, la da 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 dee da dum. Thank you. That was Kermit the Frog. Okay. I'm going to need a little water. Well, I decided to make life easy on myself this week that we would do a spiritual inquiry lesson, which we haven't done in many years. But I only got 2 questions, so I'm going to address those 2 questions. But since, now you're giving me a question. Okay, well, anyway, indulge me, because before we begin that, I'm going to share with you some of my pictures from my vacation this week. But first, that was all of us yesterday at the Pride March. And normally there's a lot more of us, but since so many women were at the retreat, we were a small group this year. But we were there, and I just wanted to let everyone know that, you know, in these times when we're all feeling a little discouraged about sometimes our fellow Americans and the way things are going and such, let me just tell you that there were more people at Pride yesterday than I remember from prior years. They were all up and down Alvarado Street, all the way down to the plaza. And they especially cheered for churches, which just reconfirms the reason I stayed home this weekend to do Pride instead of go to the women's retreat, because I feel it's so important for churches to be very publicly affirming and supportive of the LGBTQ community because of the historical damage that the church has done to so many people. So many people have been harmed by the poor use of church doctrine and poor use of the Bible. And it really means a lot to those folks to see ministers and church communities come out and publicly say, we support you as a community. So that was really important. I had a little schmooze time yesterday, tried to kind of, what do you call it, press the flesh a little bit. So on the left is me with the Monterey mayor, and I told him that our group was small this year because it conflicted with our women's retreat, and he said, so I have a message to our community from the mayor. He said, please go back and tell your community, thank you very much for being here, that it really matters. So that gave me heart. And then also that is Tina Nieto, our county sheriff, whom I adore. And so I started thinking that, in some ways, things are looking a little grim, but at the same time, here in Monterey, we have a millennial, gay, black mayor and a Hispanic, female county sheriff. So, it makes me feel hopeful. So anyway, I hope that gives you some hope and makes you feel a little better about the folks that we share this community with. All right, so this past week, Alexander and I went up to the Sierras, as we do each year at this time in June, and I just wanted to share a few things with you because how many people were here last year and heard the arachnophobia kayak story? So if you weren't here, last year, my son and I went out in a kayak on Lake Alpine, which is devastatingly beautiful. It's at about 7,500 feet of elevation, just a literal alpine lake, just beautiful. And we had a lovely time paddling around until about turned out to be just the last few minutes, spiders started coming out of the kayak. Yeah, thank you. I freaked out and almost knocked my kid, I almost capsized the kayak because they were kind of big and they were coming at me, and I have extreme arachnophobia. So anyway, you could go back and watch that on YouTube if you want to hear the rest of that story. But when we were making plans to do our vacation this year, I thought an awful lot about whether I was going to get back in that kayak. And part of me was like, come on, Michelle, don't be ridiculous. I profess to be this nature person. I love all of God's creatures, but I'm going to miss this opportunity to kayak on Lake Alpine because of the spiders. And then another part of me, probably my inner child, was like, no, do not get back in that kayak. If there were spiders last year, there will be spiders this year. And so, again, to give you some good feelings about the young generation, up at Lake Alpine, it's all young people that go there to work for the summer. So you know me, I started telling everybody there, the young girl that worked in the general store, the guy that rented me the kayak, the guy that's down on the dock that's going to put me in the kayak, telling them all about this spider thing, and I don't know if I want to do this, and can you tell me that there will not be spiders in the kayak? And he said, well, we did get a new pressure washer, and we hosed it out real good. And I said, they told me that last year, and the spiders still came out. Anyway, he assured me that there would probably most likely not be any spiders in the kayak, and I stood there for a while on the dock, and I took a deep breath, and I got in the dang kayak. And because God is good, that's what I got to see. Are you doing this? Stop it. I keep going, what did I, ESP or something? So I was instantly rewarded, not even 5 minutes into our kayak journey, by seeing this beautiful bald eagle. Now, I realize, well, we're all a little bit older folks, so we know why bald eagles are a big deal. But the young people were kind of looking at me like, why is it such a big deal? We see bald eagles all the time. If you grew up in the 70s or prior, you remember that our national bird was all but extinct because of the DDT or whatever. And we brought them back from the brink. So when I was growing up, it was a big deal to see a bald eagle. And even though there are more bald eagles now, and I think they're not endangered anymore, or I'm not entirely sure about that, but it's still a big deal to me to see one. And it's a big deal, right? It's a majestic bird. It's a beautiful bird. And not only that, there was another one, which I think was a juvenile. And I made up in my mind that that was the baby and this was the mama. But we sat in the kayak and we watched them diving for fish. So that was just beautiful. And I was so proud of myself that I did not miss that beautiful opportunity because of my fear. And there were no spiders in the kayak. So.
Where is that?
Lake Alpine. It's just beyond Bear Valley on Highway 4, Ebbets Pass. No. Sierras. Oh, I highly recommend Lake Alpine. It's a very cool place. Okay, so there's Alexander in the kayak. So it's a little bit hard because Alexander can't do a kayak himself, so we have to do a double one. And I can't let him paddle because he just keeps sticking the paddle in and creating more drag. So I was like, honey, you're not getting a paddle this year. Sorry. And so I'm just like paddling, trying to, move this big 2-person kayak. But it was beautiful. We saw an osprey. So that was at Lake Alpine. Then we also did a hike up to, in the picture on the left, that is the view that we hiked in 85-degree weather uphill to see. They call it Top of the World. It's on the Arnold Rim Trail. And you can basically, it's hard to see in the picture, but you can see to the farthest mountains that have snow on the top. So that was really beautiful. You know what? I did have a list of what pictures I had so I could see. Okay, then on our last day, we went to Calaveras Big Trees. And we drove down to what's called Beaver Creek, and we went in this creek, and somebody had rolled out, I think it's a thing for people in wheelchairs, so that people in wheelchairs could go down into the water. But it was also very helpful for us to just be able to walk into the water. So we literally sat down in the middle of the creek, and these little ducks did not even care that we were sitting there. They came and swam right by us. And I thought that was so precious. Okay. We also did the same hike that I shared about last year. It was about a 5-mile hike all the way around. But we hiked out to see the Agassiz tree, and that is the biggest tree in Calaveras Big Trees State Park. And it is 250 feet tall, 25 feet in diameter, and is estimated to be between 2,000 and 3,000 years old. So that's me hugging its toe. And that was really awesome. We stayed there and hung out with the tree for a while. The back part is all burned out, and it's open up to quite high. So, it's really bizarre. So, in the back you could go inside. And then those are just a couple of artistic I like to play at photographer, even though I don't know anything technical about photography, but I do love to take photographs. And just my love of trees, and I just thought that the one showing the burnt out tree and then the other one showing the shadow. So I just want to share some of those with you. You guys know that I find a lot of my spirituality in nature. And so to be out there and just be able to be such a part of nature for 5 days was just bliss for me. All righty. You are most welcome. Thank you for indulging me and letting me share. So, I had called this jokingly Stump the Minister, but I think I like spiritual inquiry better. Let me just go back to there. Because I don't really, Stump the Minister is kind of like when you challenge the minister's knowledge of the Bible or something, and we're not really into that. And so spiritual inquiry is good. But anyway, except for Larry's last-minute question, which I'll probably try to get to at the end. I received 2 questions from people, and so I spent a little bit of time. I didn't want to prepare like a formal talk because I like the opportunity to be a little more informal today. But Keith had a question, and if you're downstairs, Keith, you can listen in now, or he may watch it later. He said to me, sent the question, if you have time, could you talk more about how to cultivate the personal relationship with God? And that's a very Keith question, if you know Keith. Keith has a very devotional spiritual practice. And it's an interesting question for a unity church because now all unity churches are different, and you will see the full spectrum of ideas and understandings of our teachings at different churches. But in general, we talk a lot about oneness, how we're one with God. And so some people interpret, if we talk about having a relationship with God, they interpret that as being in duality. So we're projecting God outside of ourselves instead of being one with God. A lot of people feel that way. I personally don't feel that way. I feel that the whole point of spirituality is that we project God outside of ourselves so that we can have an experience of God, so that we can be in relationship with God. And I believe that that's a big part of why we're here as human beings. If you go back to like the whole idea of the Big Bang, that there was this big whatever event that happened, and however it happened, whatever God was before the Big Bang exploded into everything that we know as the universe today. And some people say that the reason that happened is because God wanted to experience God's self. When God was not manifest, God was sort of all alone, in a sense. And so God exploded out into the universe so that God could have an experience of itself. Now, that's just one made-up reason of how we think things are, but it's one that works for me and that I kind of rely on to understand. And so I feel that relationship, just as being in relationship with one another is so important, being in relationship with God is important. I think the caveat is that we tend to anthropomorphize God, meaning we tend to put on God all the qualities that humans have. So we think that God is fickle and what are some of the things we put onto God? Angry, jealous. What's that? Judgmental. So that's what I like to call making God in our image. So we are making God in our own image. And I don't believe that God has those types of human emotions in quite that way that we have them as human beings. And so that's one of the reasons why we try to avoid doing that. We try to avoid personifying God because we know God is. In other words, what we're doing is we're trying to push back against this idea that God is this white-haired man up in the sky. That's what we're trying to push back against. But to me, we don't need to go to the extreme and just be no relationship with God at all. So, and I'm not trying to get too out there, but in unity, we say that God is in everything. Everything that we see in the universe is an expression of God. And so we are here as human beings in relationship with the universe, right? We're in relationship with each other, with our pets, with the trees, with the ocean, with the sun. It's all about relationship. And also, I love Father Richard Warren. He talks a lot about relationship. He comes from the Catholic tradition, so he frames it as being about the Trinity, but that's just a framework for understanding that God is unmanifest and manifest, as well as being everything. So God is within us, as well as outside of us, all around us, manifesting as and expressing as everything that we see. Okay, so with that caveat, I think that cultivating a relationship with God can be a very important part of a spiritual practice. And folks who focus more on that aspect of spirituality are sometimes called that they have a devotional practice. Also, It can be called mystical because people feel that they've had an experience of God. So Keith's question is about how do we cultivate a relationship with God? And I thought that I would first, I wanted to just give you a couple of Unity, official Unity, readings. Lessons in Truth is one of my very favorite Unity texts. It was written a really, really long time ago, I think in the late 1800s, by H. Emily Cady. She was a woman far ahead of her time. And the language is quite antiquated because it was written like almost 150 years ago, 130 years ago or something. So you have to be able to get past the language that's a little bit outdated and uses a male pronouns for God, but and calls God our Father, because that was the convention of the time. If we can get beyond that, I just think that Emily Cady's writings, we probably have this in the Sacred Grounds, if anyone's interested, are just amazing. So here's what Emily Cady says about cultivating or seeking out that relationship with God. At the great heart of humanity, there is a deep and awful homesickness that never has been and never can be satisfied with anything less than a clear, vivid consciousness of the indwelling presence of God, our Father. So I thought that was really interesting, just about that idea that we are all seeking in some way that experience. And then she quotes from one of the Psalms that talks about dwelling in the secret place of the Most High. And that's an expression that you'll hear used a lot to talk about the place where we meet God, right? And we know that Jesus talked about going into our room and closing the door and praying to our Father in secret. So it's a very personal experience. And that secret place of the Most High is not out there somewhere, but is within. So we meet God at the point of our own being, right? And so she says, the secret place. Why called a secret place? What is it? Where may we find it? How abide in it? It is a secret place because it is a place of meeting between the Christ at the center of your being and your consciousness. A hidden place into which no outside person can either induct you or enter himself. So, in other words, no one can show us that place, and no one can come into our place. It's our own secret place. We must drop the idea that this place of realization of our divinity can be given to us by any human being. No one can come into it from the outside. So I thought that was really important because, of course, some religions teach that you need an intercessor. You need someone to help you get to God. And it's not that we can't, other people can help guide us to God, but ultimately no one can get us to that place but ourselves. So I thought that was really important. And then she goes on to say, you may study with human teachers and from man-made books until doomsday. In other words, you can study, read all the books, and you may get all the theological lore of the ages. You may understand intellectually all the statements of truth and be able to prate, that must be like prattle, I don't know, healing formulas as glibly as oil flows. But until there is a definite inner revealing of the reality of an indwelling Christ through whom and by whom come life, health, peace, power, all things, you have not yet found the friendship of the Lord. So I love this because maybe Larry remembers that when we were studying this book, she says this a number of times, and there's this one place where she says something like, stop reading so many books. Does that make sense to you guys? So that sometimes those of us that are more intellectually oriented, that like to read books and like to understand things and learn about them, there's nothing wrong with that. But what she's saying is that can only get you so far. It can help us. It can set a framework for us that can make it easier for us to experience God. But there comes a point in which we have to let go of trying to understand God, right? And just experiencing God. that make sense? Yeah. And so then she says, this personal conscious knowledge of the Father in us is the secret that is the key to all power. So making that connection with God, that is the secret to spiritual power. And she says, that which God would say to you and do through you is a great secret that no man on the face of the earth knows or ever will know, except yourself as it is revealed to you by the Spirit that is in you. So that means basically that we all have our own personal revelation. And I've been saying this for years that God, I believe God reveals God's self to us in a way that makes sense to each of us. God has recently revealed God's self to Pat in the form of the ocean and the waves. And she had a revelation of God, right? When I saw that 3,000-year-old, 250-foot tall tree, I wanted to fall to my knees. That to me was a revelation of God. So I find it in nature, but you can find it in music, you can find it in art, you can find it in singing or movement, you can find it in meditation or prayer. God is so big and so vast that it can reveal itself to each of us in the way that is right and perfect for us. Does that make sense? Has anyone had that kind of experience that they would want to? Yeah, Walter, what was that like? Or how was God revealed to you?
It was just simply a communication internally.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting. Keep the faith, believe in yourself.
yeah, yeah,
Simply that. I didn't need a speech, but I understood who was talking to me,
right,
and I understood also the benefit of that.
yeah. Yeah, so I just truly believe that it comes differently to each one of us, and it can come to us in different ways at different times in our life. So to cultivate what Keith is asking about, cultivating that personal relationship, it's a very individual thing. We have to find where we most easily experience God. And for me, I can tell that I'm experiencing God if it's joyful, if it's awe-inspiring, and if it brings tears to my eyes. If it brings tears to my eyes, I know I'm having an experience of the divine. How many people come in here, and bless you, Kim, you said this to me like after you'd been here a few times, that you just sit there and cry. Did we all come in here and cry when we first came here? I know I did. Yeah. But I believe that crying is when we're having an experience of connection. We're feeling connected to something bigger than us, and it's so moving that it moves us to tears. So when I feel tears come to my eyes, I know that I'm connecting to something and I'm having some sort of a mystical experience. But it's very individual and it will look different for each one of us. So I just wanted to say this one final thing from Emily Cady, whom I adore. She said, whoever you are that read these words, wherever you stand in the world, be it on the platform preaching the gospel or in the humblest little home seeking truth, that you may make it manifest in a sweeter, stronger, less selfish life. Know once and forever that you are not seeking God, but God is seeking you. Let me just finish this. Your longing for greater manifestation is the eternal energy that holds the worlds in their orbits, out pushing through you to get into fuller manifestation. The language, I just love her language, but you need not worry, you need not be anxious, you need not strive, only let it. Learn how to let it. So to me that says, instead of being out there searching for God, realize that God is seeking to have an experience of us. That's why we're here. God wanted to experience itself through human beings, through bald eagles, through 3,000-year-old giant sequoias, through the ocean and the tiniest little insect and amoeba and everything that we see. That's why this, I believe, is why the manifest world is here, that God wants to experience itself. And so God is seeking us. So we just need to let it. So stop trying so hard and let it. Does that make sense?
It's a challenging concept, but I think part of it is God is not complete without us.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many metaphors that we try to use, you know, and none of them are adequate, and so we reject them, but we need all of them to try to get close to it, right? Like, a lot of people are rejecting the idea of God as Father and us as children. That obviously has its limitations, but it's also helpful, you know, or a body that we are parts of, right? So, and, you know, I always say this, Richard Rohr says that when we're seeking God, we need to realize that it is not the presence of God that is lacking. As we know, God is present everywhere, all the time, in everything. It's simply our awareness of that. So if we can sit back and relax and let that awareness come to us. And the other thing is, I think sometimes we think we know what kind of experience we want to have, and then if it doesn't look like that, we think we're not getting the experience. To me, those moments are very subtle and nuanced at the same time that they are huge and awe-inspiring. But I think that if we reflect, we might find that there have been many more moments of experiencing God than we realize. We just didn't call them that because maybe like fireworks didn't go off or something, you know? I remember one time many years ago when I was still a person in the pews, I was sitting in the back over there, and I just had this experience all of a sudden of love for everyone in this church and how deeply connected I felt to everyone and how grateful I was to be part of this. And it was just an instant. No fireworks went off or anything, but I remember it probably 15 years later. So those experiences can be fleeting and they can be subtle, but it's our job to notice them, right? To notice them. So I don't know if that helps Keith at all, but I think I've pretty much said all the things. So that it's a mystical experience, that we need to stop seeking God or searching for God intellectually. And I like that idea of just sort of relaxing back and allowing God to seek us, allowing God to find us. So that's interesting, right? That might be an interesting practice for us to do, to sit in meditation and just imagine that God is seeking to experience us. What would that feel like? I couldn't not bring in a little Myrtle Fillmore. Myrtle Fillmore is the co-founder of Unity. And she said, this is her book, How to Let God Help You. Myrtle was an amazing woman who often gets overshadowed by her husband, who was more of the public-facing person in Unity. But Myrtle was really, they say, the heart of Unity. And it, in fact, was her healing of herself that began the Unity movement. So she says, if you would grow in understanding of spiritual things, become as a little child and let the universal spirit of good teach you. Do not strain your intellect in trying to understand the mighty questions of life. Wait until you have developed faculties which can comprehend them. There is a running to and fro among men that will never cease so long as they try to explain spiritual things with the intellect. Listen to the stillness within your own soul, and you will find it resonant with a new tongue. So again, interesting how different people, but essentially saying the same thing, right? That stop reading so many books, stop running around like a chicken with your head cut off, be still, and let God show up. I love that. And then she says, your own willingness to come into spiritual consciousness and to develop and use the Christ power will determine your growth. But you are to keep to the Holy Spirit as your light, and to let the study of the writings of others or their lives be but witnesses to you of what God ideas can do. Others may be instrumental in calling forth into activity the power within you. So in other words, we can learn from others, but just remember that anything we're reading is what someone has written down about their experience of God, right? The Holy Spirit is the activity of God-mind in the consciousness of man. The long way, the most difficult way back to the Father's house is the way of experience. The shortcut is in being receptive and obedient to the leading of the Holy Spirit in thought, word, and deed, putting God first in your life. And so I think what she means by that is sort of what the Course in Miracles says, that we're all going to get there eventually, but we can get there faster by our own willingness to open ourselves up to the experience of God and to learn these teachings and these principles that can quicken our process. So, Larry's got his eyes like this. Anything more about that before I move on to the other question real quickly? Okay, so Andrea Moore asked me, leave it to Andrea to give me a hard one. I'd like to know what references Jesus made regarding setting boundaries or limits in a way that was less confrontational than turning over the tables of the money changers. So this is an interesting question. And what I came up with is that at first, boundaries, that's like a 21st century term, right? So Jesus obviously didn't speak in those terms about having boundaries with people. That's very modern psychology, right? But I believe that he modeled having healthy boundaries rather than teaching about them per se. And this is what's so great, what I find so compelling about Jesus as a teacher, is he doesn't just tell us what to do. He says, watch me do it. Watch me do it. Watch what I do. Pay attention to how I am in the world. And he models these things. And so we have to pay attention because we can miss it, because he's not blasting it on a loudspeaker to us. He's saying, watch me. So Jesus showed us a way to live that involved loving others and giving generously, but also taking care of ourselves and setting healthy boundaries. Jesus had a clear sense of his own purpose, right? He knew what he was here to do, or he came to know. He prioritized rest. He took naps. Remember when he fell asleep in the boat? I love that. I always say Jesus took naps, and so do I. If it's good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for me. And he stepped away from situations that drained him. So if you remember a few months ago, Vicki did a series on a book, I think it was called The Sacred Pause. And I love the premise of that book because the premise was that there was a pattern to Jesus' life and his behavior that we can discern in the Gospels, where Jesus taught and healed and worked with people and loved them and ate with them. And then he said, hold up, y'all, I need to go and recharge. And so he would go away. And he would go out into the olive orchards, or he would go somewhere to be by himself. Now, we don't know exactly what he did there, but that was his way of connecting with God, of meditating, of recharging himself, of getting centered. And then he would come back to do more ministry. So in that way, he was showing us, not saying it, but showing us, this is the pattern for your life. Pattern your life on a pattern of work and rest. Loving people, helping people, being selfless, but then going apart and taking care of yourself and recharging before you come back. There's nothing noble about burning yourself out or letting people walk all over you and making yourself sick. That's not spiritual. That's not noble. And so he modeled that for us by many times going away and then coming back. And so that book called that sacred pause. So sometimes there would be a lot of crowds of people around Jesus. You know, they were following him and his disciples from town to town. And there were, can you imagine in a place with no hospitals or medicine and somebody shows up that can heal? It's like in that scene in Out of Africa where she gets up the first morning and there's like this big line of all the people that want to be healed because she has a few Band-Aids and some antiseptic, you know, and all the people want to be healed because there's no medicine out there, right? It's like that, you know, people were just lined up. They all wanted to be healed. And so, you know, he would heal and do all of that work for many, many hours, I would assume. But then he would say, I've got to go and take care of myself now. You know, in other words, he didn't stay there until he dropped from exhaustion. There's at least one instance where he told the disciples that he needed to go off by himself to pray. And the disciples went and looked for him and said, you know, hey, there's still a bunch of people that are waiting to be healed. And he said, I need time, you know, I need to be here taking care of myself. So that's another way that he modeled those boundaries. Jesus also modeled incredible, what in modern whatever terminology is called self-regulating. He was really good at self-regulating. And what that means is he could control his emotions, or not control them, but, you know, he could regulate his own emotions. So when the disciples were testing him, you know, and not getting what he was saying, and you don't see him lashing out at them. Sometimes he does say some kind of little bit of snarky things, but, you know, I think that was just banter among, you know, friends or the disciples or whatever. If you remember, I've preached many times about how the Pharisees, they tried to set traps for him, you know, like they would kind of set him up and see if they could get him to say something that was blasphemous, you know. And if you notice, he stays cool as a cucumber. And he lays his own trap, and then he just lets them walk into it. So he was very good at not getting caught up in other people's emotions and letting it get him all riled up, except for the money changers. That really made him mad. That's the one instance. Well, and maybe cursing the fig tree, but that has a whole other explanation, which we can't get into. But he didn't get embroiled in other people's anger or their vengefulness. He also didn't ask people to be different than they were. I think he'd been to Al-Anon. You know, in Al-Anon where they say you can't change anybody else. He didn't try to change people. He modeled different behavior. And he said, if you want to get to the kingdom of heaven, which is this blissful way of living, this is what you need to do. But he didn't, like, scold people for not doing it, or he just kept modeling it. He just kept modeling it over and over. And another thing that he did that was showing boundaries was teaching in parables. So instead of saying directly to the Pharisee, look, dude, you know, or calling him out publicly, which could have gotten him killed even quicker, he would tell a story in a parable. And if the person was paying attention, they started to go, I wonder if this story is about me, right? So he had a way of teaching in a way that wasn't confrontational and didn't get him in trouble with the person, but the person might be more receptive to it because it was told in a parable. So I hope that answers Andrea's question, and it certainly made me think a lot about the behavior that Jesus models, and I think we could observe and study that behavior for years and years and years, and even though the Gospels are short, there's so much there. The more attention we pay, the more we see that Jesus did so much more modeling than outward teaching. Again, he said, this is what you should do, but he said, watch me do it. Watch me. I will show you. Watch what I am doing, and then do that too. So, Andrea? She just wanted to know if Jesus taught anything about boundaries. Okay, Larry, tell me really quickly, because
I sort of think you answered my question, but I feel stupid asking that question, but I think you can answer it. I think you've answered it already. But.
okay. Do you want me to answer this? Because
Well,
No. It kind of opens a can of worms that I don't think I want to open. Let's talk about it afterwards. It's about Jesus, and so so does unity say Jesus Christ lives in each and every one of us, and that we can do the things Jesus did and more? So unity doesn't say that we can do the things that Jesus did and more. Jesus said that we can do the things that he did and more. Does Jesus live in us? I don't think we teach that in the way that evangelical churches teach that. Jesus is our way shower, our elder brother, our master teacher. He lives in us in the sense that we are all connected to one another. But I don't think we deify. We don't make Jesus into God the way some other more evangelical churches do.
So can I say God lives in each and every one of us?
Yeah. So in unity, Jesus, Charles Fillmore taught that Jesus was God's idea of the perfect man. I think what he meant in modern language is the fully self-realized man, the man who had fully spiritually awakened. Okay? And so he's a model for us. And so we talk about the Christ. Instead of Jesus Christ, we talk about the Christ. So the Christ is that awakening, that God Spirit that was fully realized in Jesus also lives in us.
Like I say, the Christ lives in each and
The Christ. So I would say Jesus doesn't live in us, but the Christ lives in us. That same Spirit that Jesus had lives in each one of us. It's just we haven't awakened to the extent that Jesus did. Is that a good answer? Okay, great. All right, so let's do the meditation song. And I'm sorry that we're going over today. You guys didn't have anywhere else to go today, did you? Thank you. What?
You just did. But say, for instance, the fall, something like that.
Say what?
Do that again. The sermon? Yes. That answer those questions.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Oh, do this again sometime?
We can ask you things.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Maybe do it as like a second hour or something.
Okay. I like what you're doing here.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God.
So just getting comfortable and prepared for just a short time of meditation, bringing an awareness into your body, bringing a focus to the center of your being, and just connecting to yourself. Just saying, here I am, right here in this now moment. And acknowledge to yourself any feelings you're having or issues that are up for you this morning, emotions, sensations in your body. Just acknowledging them and saying, this is how it is for me right now. Just settling more and more into this now moment. Resting your awareness gently on your breath so that you're noticing each inhale And letting go with each exhale. When you're breathing in, know that you are breathing in. And breathing out, know that you are breathing out. Here I am, in this moment, in this place, this breath. I am present. I am awake. I am aware. I'm grateful for everything that comes to me this day. I rejoice in each moment without reaching out for the next one or looking back to the past moment. In this moment, I am alive. I am well. I am here. This is the sacred moment. Wherever you are is the sacred place. And we meet God in this present moment. When we stop all the running to and fro and we practice just being. Breathing in and breathing out. Resting gently in this awareness of God. This awareness of our own aliveness. God expressing as us this day. God expressing as everything around us. And we, a part of it all. Resting for a few moments in the silence.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God.
So as we prepare to bring this time to a close this morning, we remind ourselves to see God in the face of all of those around us. Try to do that this coming week and see how it will change you. Everywhere you look, see that face of God. And so we are grateful for these teachings, for this time together, and for this community, which always calls us higher and higher on our spiritual journey. And we say thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.
Unity of Monterey Bay is a collective consciousness and commitment of all of us who give of our time, treasure, and talent in order to sustain this spiritual community that is dedicated to transforming lives. We know that prosperity is a state of mind that finds blessings in every situation and abundance in joyous generosity. We transform all appearance of fear or lack into faith-filled peace of mind by shifting our attention to thoughts of gratitude for the abundance of God's good in our lives. As the ushers come forward, I invite you to think of something specific you're grateful for in this moment. I'm grateful for the truth and authenticity that Unity has helped me with. And I used to run and hide from truth and beauty and authentic stuff. So I'm thanking Unity for allowing me to be strong enough to stand up in front of those things. And now, with your hearts and minds overflowing with gratitude, we breathe into the divine flow of God's good, trusting that we are enough, that we have enough, and that there always is enough to both have and share. We give thanks for all the ways you give in person, online, monthly bank auto payments, and using our QR codes from the pews or from the screen, or your credit card in sacred grounds. We ask that everyone join in faith and gratitude as we pass the offering baskets this morning by holding and blessing the basket as it passes to you. And now please join me in our offertory blessing. I am an open channel for God's infinite good. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies everything I give and everything I receive. I am both blessed and a blessing. Thank you, God.
I've been dreaming of friendly faces. I got so much time to kill. Just imagine people laughing. I know someday we will. And even if it's far away, get me through another day. Cover me in sunshine, shower me with good times. Tell me that the world's been spinning since the beginning, and everything will be alright. Cover me in sunshine. From a distance, all these mountains are just some tiny hills. Wildflowers, they keep living while they're just standing still. I've been missing yesterday, but what if there's a better place? Cover me in sunshine, shower me with good times. Tell me that the world's been spinning since the beginning, and everything will be alright. Cover me in sunshine, shower me with good times. Tell me that the world's been spinning since the beginning, and everything will be alright. Cover me in sunshine. La, la, la. Cover me in sunshine, shower me with good times. Tell me that the world's been spinning since the beginning, and everything will be alright. Cover me in sunshine.
I wanted to do that song by the artist Pink, and it was written during the pandemic. You can kind of tell about, from the lyrics, but it's still poignant today as hope for a better time. So, all right, it is with great joy that we bless and give thanks for these gifts and offerings that demonstrate our collective commitment to the spiritual work of love and transformation in our lives and in our world. We dedicate this offering, our lives, and this ministry to more fully expressing the Christ light that is the truth of our being and inviting all people to know God's love. Finally, knowing that one with God all things are possible, we affirm together that the good is now, the rest is blessed, and the best is yet to be in our lifetime. Gently. Thank you, ushers. And for our awesome music today, we want to thank Amy Allen Mozella, Karen Drucker, Reverend Carrie Huntley, Robert Anderson, Paul Williams, Kenneth Asher, and Kenny Loggins. And of course, our awesome music team, and we thank Devin for leading music today and John on drums. Yay! For announcements, you can continue to sign up. There are 4 different Summer Fling events that are happening. You can do that in the Sacred Grounds. The register is not open today, so you can't pay today, but you can sign up. And it will be open next week. It's still not too late to host an event should you decide you want to do that. Also, our holding the High Watch for Our Nation prayer time is going to be this Tuesday, and that is on Zoom, and you can find the link for that in your e-blast. It's holding that consciousness of peace for our country. Next week is our 25th anniversary celebration of Unity of Monterey Bay as an independent Unity church. Followed by, it's also Vicky's 27th anniversary, I think, and my 6th. And of course, the 4th of July. We will be having a potluck barbecue. We will provide the hot dogs, drinks, and dessert, and you all bring the sides. And it is also Volunteer Appreciation Sunday, so we will be honoring everyone for all the work that you do in this community. And there also is going to be a special surprise celebration that you will not want to miss. Friday, July 20th, oh, there's nobody doing the, Larry, could you? The PowerPoint. Well, anyway, it's okay. We're missing the announcements, but that's okay. Friday, July 25th, there is going to be a concert with Anton Miserak and Laura Berryhill. And Vicki wanted to mention that after her talk about creating more joy, that coming to hear this live music is another way to experience more joy. And save the date for our annual banquet, which is on Friday, October 3rd. You all know about all of that. So as we bring our service to a close this morning, I'm just so grateful that y'all came today, so I wasn't here all alone. It was nice to be with you in like a little smaller group, and we just hope for all of you that may be tuning in later on YouTube or watching us on Facebook Live, we hope we've made you feel at home in our Unity community, and we want you to know that wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Prayer chaplain today is Larry. He's available to pray with you after the service. So before we make our closing circle, let's join in our prayer. Can you... I can't see it. The one that I am and we are channels of God's love. One more. Okay, so let's affirm together. I am and we are channels of God's love. Through divine love, justice prevails, and powerful and good results come forth. I trust the activity of God within myself, all people, and all situations. I give thanks for divine intelligence and divine grace operating and expressing fully in all people, in our country, government, and world. Highest good for all is the result. All right, let's form our closing circle. That's okay. It sure makes you realize how many people are required to make this service happen, though, you know? When anybody is missing, they are missed. Yeah. We can just make a nice, let's make a smaller circle. Okay, so as we form this circle of love and community and an awareness of God's presence, I just invite you to hold in your hearts or speak out loud if you wish. Anyone who is on your heart this morning that is in need of being lifted up in prayer. So we hold all of these ones that are on our hearts in this circle. See them enfolded and encircled in God's love. See them lifted up. See divine order unfolding perfectly and effortlessly in their lives for all of us and for the highest good of all involved. So will you please, as we continue to bless these loved ones, join me in our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let these begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow, to take each moment and live